differences in disorders, we're going to talk about that. Pay attention to, again, the objectives. I took them right out of the syllabus. The objectives will match your lecture notes, and they'll match your the PowerPoint, obviously, and they'll match your test questions. Okay, so we pay attention to those. What we're going to do is we're going to start out with some questions. Okay. When we have single gene disorders, we have some of these definitions we kind of have to know, all right? Otherwise, a lot's not going to make sense of. Anybody know what a deletion is? When you're talking about genes and the genetic code and DNA and chromosomes, that sort of thing. A deletion. When we say something has a deletion, it has, yeah, part of it's been taken out, right? So maybe a little codon or something, you know, just got deleted. It's not there anymore, which means that you're not going to make the same protein you were hoping to make, right? Okay, how about a duplication? Okay, a duplication, double, triple, whatever. There are some diseases like Huntington's, for example, where you have like the codon CAG. It'll be CAG, 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 CAG. It keeps going on and on and on like that. That's a duplication of the amino acid over and over and over again. Good. Inversion. Yeah, it is. So again, if you have one DNA strand here, like another DNA strand here, right? Maybe when you're trying to copy it, maybe one of them kind of flips over, it's the wrong way. It literally gets inverted, gets upside down, gets read wrong during the copying process. So again, a lot of these say exactly what they are, right? They're not too bad. What about faulty translocation? Does anybody know what a translocation is? Okay, it's part of a gene in the wrong place. Let me actually draw that if this pen works today. Of course not. What are you doing? Okay, so if this is a chromosome, for example, and has little pieces to it, right? And this is the same chromosome, but one's mother's, one's father's, for example. Well, sometimes little pieces, will not sometimes, that's what it's supposed to do, right? One piece from the dad will go and jump on, not on mom, that's not right. Okay, that must be the baby in the middle, right? So anyway, one piece from mom, one piece from dad. They kind of switch around, so you end up with, the genetic mixture. Okay. Well, sometimes what will happen is there will be pieces that go to the wrong place or the wrong chromosome. So if this is one chromosome, all of that, maybe a little piece of this one jumps on there, maybe a little piece over there jumps on there. That's called a translocation. All of them are called translocations, but that would be a faulty translocation. You end up with one piece of a chromosome on another chromosome that shouldn't be there, right? One of them might be chromosome 19, the other one might be chromosome 22. Does that make sense? And they kind of switch. Well, they're not really supposed to switch. That's going to cause some kind of leukemia, right, in this case. Does that make sense? So that'd be a faulty translocation. You're not mixing eye color, you're mixing two different genes, okay? And a break in sequence. Literally a break in the sequence. It's not rocket science. You want to put that down for a sec? Because what we're going to do is get my mouse back.
Woohoo! Did you get any questions on the skeleton? Do you think?
must be in. All right, then we started.
Thank you. Oh. What is this? Oh, it's like a game. It's really fun. But it's probably not going to be like that because it's like case studies.
All right.
Yeah.
Callie girl, who are you? All right, you're number 1 right now. Good. Rhonda. And number 2, Sarah. Sarah C.
They know that.
All right. Oh, wow, number 4. Who is that? What are you three of them? What is it? You're not messing it up? What the heck, dude? All right, you better stay in the top.
To be here.
Dude, if you're gonna
I aspire to be here.
if you're gonna copy me, you better win. That number 4 crap.
Oh, I thought that was him too.
Abs. Abs.
Right here.
That's because you got like abs.
Yeah.
Go. All right. Genetic duplication happens when DNA is accidentally copied 1 or more times. You know, like CAG, CAG, CAG. Okay. Ooh. Cat number 1. Sarah C. Was Sarah down there before? You were. Okay. And Abs and Chase. Was Chase under before? You weren't under. And then, oh man, I'm about ready to get knocked out. You better represent better.
That sounds about right.
Oh yeah, I'm moving up. And Rhonda, Chase, Jen's new. Where's Jen? All right, welcome to the top 5. Good fast.
Who's cat?
Who's cat?
I hate you.
Oh man. Oh, you're not. She's not that far ahead of you. Rhonda, Chase, Jen. All right. So no one's not going to be Hurry up, cat's not looking. Cat takes it. Woo! Okay. Not great. Oh, we got a hater. Always one hater. Probably 30th.
29th place. 26th. I got 3 right and 1 wrong. I got 3 right and 2 wrong. You just didn't answer one, that's probably why.
All right, there you go. Woo! Okay, so we good? Okay, so these are some of the other definitions that we absolutely have to know before we can really even talk about genetics, okay? So, anybody know the difference between a genotype and a phenotype? Yes?
Genotype's what is expressed like on a person. And genotype's like their gene.
Exactly, right? So if you're talking about like eye color or something, you know, your genotype that you're looking at might be like brown green, right? But what's expressed is one of the two in your eye color, and you actually see that, right? You can see somebody has brown eyes, for example. Good. So genotype, phenotype, just whether or not you're looking at the gene or you're looking at the person's eyes, in this case. How about an allele? What's an allele? Yes?
Is it like a different version of the actual gene?
Sure. So I could say the allele for eye color is brown or green, kind of thing. Is that what you're talking about?
I think so. Or it's like an allele can be mutated, right?
Yeah, when we're talking about like that place where that color, for example, is that's what we're talking about. That allele, that particular place on the gene that codes for that thing, right? Does that make sense? Whether it's an eye color or a disease or whatever. It's like the spot on the gene that codes for what we're worried about or what we're talking about. Does that not make sense still? No? Google it. See what the good definition is. Anybody? I'm sure there's a better definition out there than what I said. If it's not making sense to you, we'll keep looking until we find one that does. Yeah?
It says one of two or more alternative forms of a gene that arises by mutation and are found at the same place of the chromosome.
Still nothing? All right, let me do this. If this is your chromosome, right? Whatever. And this spot is what we're concerned with, right there on that chromosome. Just that one little thing, because that one little thing is either going to be normal and produce whatever, or it'll be, diseased, and that'll produce something else. Okay? So that allele is that one little spot on that gene that codes for whatever we're talking about. It might be talking about disease, it might be talking about, I was using like eye color or something. Probably not technically correct, but still, it's that one spot that is coding for the thing that we're talking about. And it could be fine or it could be disease. Okay, so we use it in a sentence like, the allele for chloride metabolism is, defective or not, kind of thing. Okay? How about homozygous versus heterozygous? Anyone?
Homozygous isn't it all the same gene and heterozygous is one.
Yeah, so homozygous is 2 copies of the gene that does the same thing, right? So again, if we're talking about, eye color, right? Homozygous would be like GG, like 2 Gs, right? Heterozygous would be like BG, like blue, green kind of thing. Does that make sense? Okay. Dominant versus recessive versus codominant? Yes?
Dominant would be like the tall gene being dominant, then recessive would be short, and then codominant would be like whether your pinkies are straight or if they're curved. Like it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, they're like equally in charge, right? Does that make sense to everybody how she explained that? That works. Okay, question? Sex linked when we're talking about gene disorders?
Certain genes that only are for those who are male and those who are female. So certain disorders are, may only happen to females. Certain may only happen to females. They're sex.
Okay, so again, there will be a problem on one of the sex chromosomes, right? So there are some diseases that are carried just on the X chromosome, they're not carried anywhere else. Some just on the Y. So they would be sex linked, okay? As opposed to any of the 22 pairs of autosomes that we have, that would be an autosomal disorder as opposed to a sex linked disorder, just on those two, okay? And probability of expression?
Isn't that like with the chart that you have, and then you line up all the recessive and the dominant genes, and then it's like you have a 75% chance of having a brown-eyed baby, those things, and then it's like a 25% chance of like a green-eyed baby.
Exactly. So we needed all those definitions so we can talk about probability, right? Now these are called Punnett Squares. This is what we typically do, right? So these may not be the best examples in the world to use, so I might have to modify them a bit, but typically when you draw Punnett Squares like a tic-tac-toe, right? You kind of draw it loose on the other side of that, hopefully. Anyway, so you have like a tic-tac-toe going on there. And again, we're talking about genes, so does this male have, does this male have a disease, do you think? Does anybody know enough about this already to say yes or no? So yes, because typically when we are drawing these genotypes on a Punnett square, we'll make anything capital, we'll say that's actually dominant. Okay? That's typical standard nomenclature, what we'll do. Okay, so anything capital, we'll say dominant. And how many dominant out of the two, how many have to be dominant for you to have the disease? Just one, exactly. So it's dominant. It will take over the other one. It will not let the other one be expressed because it is dominant. Okay? If it's recessive, on the other hand, you need two copies to be able to have that disease. Otherwise, you might just be a carrier, right? So in this case, that male has the disease, whatever that disease happens to be. Make sense? What about the female? Does she have a disease or not? Yeah, because it's the exact same as the male, right? Her genotype is the exact same for this particular disease, okay? So in that case, again, what the whole point of that is so we can actually do some calculations on if this couple was to have 4 children, or 1 child actually, if they were to have 1 child, what are the odds, like you were saying, what are the odds that this couple would have somebody with the disease? 75% in this case, because again, you only have to have 1 capital D, and it will be expressed. So this person, absolutely, they have 2 copies, sure to be expressed. But so will this guy over here, and over here, because they only needed 1 copy. Therefore, 75% or 3/4 of, you have a 75% chance of having a child. Every time they have a child, a 75% chance of that child having that disease. Does that make sense? Yes?
Does that mean as well that they have 75% chance of being recessive since that top left box is 2 dominant? Usually you need 1 to be recessive. I mean, what lowercase to be recessive usually?
That means that this right here, that's the only chance that this that they have of having a child with disease, or with, yeah.
One dominant.
Does that make sense? Because to get rid of that dominant, you have to have no copies of it. Yeah?
So in this case, the male and the female both possess it, they just don't express it, right?
No, they both express it because they have the dominant gene. So both the male and female are both expressing it, and say this is dwarfism, okay? Maybe that's why I put the D. I'm sure I had a reason to pick that letter, because it could be any letter. I probably was. It was probably like achondroplasia, right? She's a dwarf, he's a dwarf. 3 out of 4 chance that their child is going to be a dwarf. You've seen Little People or whatever that is? You saw that, right? If you look at the picture of all of them, you'll see that some of their kids are actually not, right? I think like a quarter of them, if I remember right. I think it kind of worked out with this whole genetics thing, the predictions. I think there was like a quarter of their kids were normal size, and the rest were dwarfs. So that's what we're talking about. That is a dominant transmitted condition. Any other questions on that one? Okay, we'll move to this one on the bottom left here. Okay, is this disease that we're talking about, is it, first off, is it autosomal or sex-linked? It's autosomal because there's no mention of X's or Y's. If you look at that lower right one, yeah, that's clearly sex-linked because you have X's and Y's, right? These, I just put like random letters, okay? Again, by convention, if we're talking about a sex-linked disease, we kind of have to put the X's and Y's there, all right? Now, in this case, is that disease that we're talking about, is it a dominant or a recessive gene? Okay, it's recessive because, what? Okay, there's no capitals, but also, I kind of wrote this a little bit differently than here, right? I put a D, that's what that is, if you can't see that in the back. So this is a, whatever that gene is, with a D on it. That means when you put a D in a superscript like that, we mean that's diseased, okay? So here's the disease gene, this one's normal for whatever that was, okay? Disease gene, normal. Okay? Again, I don't remember why I picked M and P, but I'm sure there was a reason somewhere along the line. So which children in this are showing the disease? They actually have it in their phenotype. What percent? Okay. Actually, again, because it's recessive, and I know it's recessive, by the way, because I said this is a carrier. You can't be a carrier if you have the disease. We just don't say that. We say you either have the disease or you're a carrier of the disease. Obviously, people who have the disease are carriers, but we don't say that. We just say they have the disease. If you're a carrier, that's signifying that you don't have the disease, but you are carrying the genetic trait for it, right? So in this case, he's carrying it, she's carrying it. Neither one of them have the disease because it's recessive, and that child is definitely going to have the disease. They have 2 disease copies, right? This child is just like the parents, both of these. They are carriers, and then this one is completely washed out of the gene pool, right? So this child, unless they happen to, make with somebody who has a disease again, it's washed out of their line. Does that make sense? Okay. And then we have this last one. I'm going to change it from what I put on the PowerPoint because I realized afterward that this is probably a very confusing example. So I'm going to make this mother where she doesn't actually have the actually disease trait on both of her chromosomes. Okay. So that's the new stuff right there. All right? So if we're looking at that, like I said before, it is a sex-linked, yes? And It's where? The disease is where? Sex linked, so it's got X or Y chromosome, it's on the X because I actually put XD for the disease, right? So this person has, the mother is she have the disease or a carrier? She's a carrier because she has one normal copy, and with recessive diseases, the normal copy will cover up the disease copy. Okay? Does that make sense? So if you have one normal and one disease, you're not going to express it. You can carry it, but you're not going to express that disease because your normal gene will actually take over for a disease if it happens to be recessive. Whether that's autosomal or sex-linked is kind of irrelevant in that case. Okay? Now, this person, X, normal, and then X with the disease, carrier or not, or diseased? Carrier, just like I made mom, right? This person right here, carrier or diseased? Okay, male or female? Female, 2 X's, right? Females have 2 X's, males have 1 X, 1 Y. Okay, is dad a carrier or has a disease? Aha, and there's the trick. Remember what I said? If you have 2 copies of the same gene that's diseased, the normal copy will cover up the disease copy. Males only have 1 X, right? If they have 2 X's, they'd be called females. So since males only have 1 X, there's nothing to cover up that disease. So it doesn't matter if it's dominant or recessive in that case if it's on an X chromosome, right? He's only got 1, therefore he's going to show that disease because it happens to be on the X chromosome and that's going to code for the disease. Nothing to cover it up. That little bitty Y, can't do anything about that, okay? So that means that this boy, diseased or not? Diseased. This boy, normal, right? He has neither, okay? This is also why you will notice that it is much more likely that in cases like this is a good example, like hemophilia, I think. A good example of why males would get hemophilia a lot more than females, because you can't be a carrier if you're a male. You either got it or you don't. Females can carry it all over the place, and unless you run into, a situation like this is probably not that common. This guy has hemophilia. Everybody knows he has hemophilia, and then he has mates with a woman that's a carrier of hemophilia. It's not that common, right? Okay. So we'll pick up next time.